Temple, Texas. Out here, their local mall isn't looking too hot. Well, it is a pleasant enough 90s space, but it isn't doing well as anchors leave and hallways empty out. Let's go for a walk and discuss its situation. In August 4th, 1976, the $10 million Temple Mall would host its grand opening under the guidance of Paul Broadhead Associates, whom had developed shopping centers beforehand in Mississippi, Texas, and Louisiana. This project would have created 1,000 jobs for the area and would provide premier regional shopping between Austin and the Dallas-Fort Worth region, with nothing like it anywhere else, at least not at the time. On opening day, Dillard's was the main anchor present at the mall alongside Sears and an outfit called H.J. Wilson, later known as just Wilson's. The inline tenant roster was also quite strong, with more on the way. You could expect stores like Austin Shoes, Barry's, Bob's Old Fashioned Ice Cream, Foot Action, Fashion Conspiracy, Mr. Music, Merle Norman, and Walden Books, among so many others. Because Texas, the Temple Mall would advertise how it's always nice and comfortable with their interior climate controlled at 72 degrees. They've been on the warm side, but that is leagues better than the 100-degree summers that Texas is known for. But moving past that, the Temple Mall turned out to be a hit and would see a very early expansion that would bring forward JCPenney around 1978. However, Temple Mall wouldn't enjoy its prosperity for long, as the competition in the surrounding area would soon heat up. Killeen would get a brand new mall in 1981, and Waco would get the Richland Mall just a year earlier. While Temple Mall was no stranger to competition, beating out the Town and Country Mall in its own backyard, Temple Mall would have to step its game up to compete with Killeen and Waco. All three of the malls mentioned will be discussed in future videos. I promise. Enter 1990, and Marathon U.S. Shopping Centers, whom own the mall with a partnership with Aline Barr White, announced a multi-million-dollar renovation for the Temple Mall. The project was anticipated to cost $6.5 million, but it would bring forward a new food court, updates to the interior, as well as new skylights and entrances. At the time, Temple Mall was still said to be performing well versus its competition, and the renovation was seen as essential to keeping the mall fresh, bringing it to the look we have today as it hosted a grand reopening at the end of 1990. By this point, however, Temple Mall would see its Wilson's anchor store replaced by Service Merchandise sometime in the 80s. Out of left field, Sears decided it didn't want to hang around the Temple Mall anymore and would close its doors in 1993. Fortunately, a department store called Foley's would take its place in 1995. Enter the early 2000s, and Colonial Property Trust would agree with the City Council to build a 10-screen cinema at the Temple Mall, which, under their ownership, was known as the Colonial Mall Temple. Turns out Colonial Properties weren't just localized to the East Coast. However, enter 2003, and disaster would rear its ugly head, and at least attempt to strike. In 2003, a makeshift bomb utilizing a military practice grenade and a blasting cap attached to a propane tank was found near the Dillards on the mall property. While a detonation was attempted, the pin was not removed properly from the grenade, leaving the spoon in place, which prevented the chemical fuse from burning. The suspect was named as Earl Ellis Dix, whom was a former staff sergeant for the Army with a known history of mental disorders. I won't go much further into this as the background is more tragic than anything else. Fortunately, this bombing was a failure, resulting in no more than a real bad scare for Temple. Getting back to the mall, in 2006, while Foley's as a company was being consumed by Macy's, the space formerly occupied by Service Merchandise and Wilson's would get filled in by Steve & Barry's, whom was the fastest growing retailer at the time. However, rapid expansion turned out to be a bad idea in the long run, as there was just no time for Steve & Barry's to establish itself as a name, and it couldn't generate the revenue to keep up with the logistics of operating so many stores across the nation. And thus, in 2009, Steve & Barry's became the fastest shrinking retailer, leaving just as quickly as it came in. Seriously, I remember that name. I saw it once or twice at my local mall, Oak Hollow, and even back then, I wondered, was that real? The mall would manage to hold its own and cling to life throughout the years, but enter the 2010s, and cracks would begin to show, as Macy's took off in 2016. Dillard saw an opportunity and opted to relocate into the former Macy's in 2017. From Sears, to Foley's, to Macy's, and then to Dillard's. What a roller coaster. To this day, Dillard's still operates in that space where their old pad would be chopped up to make way for Planet Fitness. The remains would see seasonal pop-ups like Spirit Halloween. JCPenney would then close its doors in 2021 as the company scraped by, barely avoiding total collapse. And around this time, Kohan Retail Investment Group would purchase the mall from Woodmont. I'll withhold my judgment on Kohan Retail, mostly out of good taste. Today, the mall is still hanging in there, but only by a couple threads. The food court only has a couple places to eat left, and its entrance has been roped off for reasons unknown to me. Maybe locals can shed some light on that. The halls are also sparse, with only a few tenants here and there, with the JCPenney wing being the deadest. I'm not quite sure what local management or the owner have in store for this mall, but they better do something. Perhaps it's too late as Killeen and Waco's malls continue to hold strong. This mall seems to channel a more classical dead mall feel, all the way down to the security dance. I do like the 90s look that it boasts, and it's not as bad as other malls I have seen, but you can tell the writing is on the wall. If the current downward trajectory continues, I give this place about 3 years average before it finally kicks the bucket, barring miracles or the circumstance of last one out, kill the lights. If it makes it past 5 years, I'll be impressed. So Temple, enjoy the mall while you still can. Thanks for having me, and until next time, this is Doomie Grunt wishing you and your mall farewell and good luck in this mad, mad, mad world. I love it when you open up the newspaper archives and you just find a trove of information focused on what you're looking for.